All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the weekend live stream. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that, so for those of you who are new to the channel, every weekend I like to do a quick little live stream, say hello, do a little bit of mentoring, answer any questions that I can, try to provide value, just basically talk about software for a good hour or so. And today, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was a individual who, on a recent video, commented, and I'm gonna read the comment in just a second, about how he keeps on essentially getting fired from his developer jobs, and how he essentially keeps on um, losing jobs because for whatever reason. So that's how we're going to start off. And after that, while everyone's funneling in, we'll go ahead and take some questions as always. So individual says, "Hi, Dylan. I'm trying really hard for the past 5 years to learn to code in C and C++ for embedded software development, but I'm still not able to get good at C or C++. It is because I'm not able to get a detailed and complete understanding of C and C++. I'm not able to code in C and C++ quickly. I couldn't meet the expectations of my boss for 2 years, so I left the job, which was becoming increasingly suffocating because I was not able to grasp C and C++ concepts, pass pointers in classes, was not able to meet set deadlines set by my boss. And I am now studying for my master's course to support myself financially. I was doing a working student job on embedded software development using C and C++ from the past 2 months. But this time, my boss at a new startup fired me, saying that I didn't meet his expectations. And guess what? I'm still interested in software development using C, C++, and also in Unity game development using C#. Do you think I should pursue coding?" So what we have here is an individual who essentially is getting fired because he's not cutting it. And I honestly can say that I'm not sure how to deliver a proper response to give to him. I feel like if you weren't meeting your expectations of your boss for 2 years, that's on you. So for those of you who don't know, a lot of times you'll get internships for roles that essentially are exactly what this individual is dealing with, where you'll go into, you'll get a job, usually it'll be contract hire. The reason they do contract hire is because they don't technically want to have to fire you. They just don't want to work with you anymore. And there's some tax reasons and all that sort of stuff. So in this case, I just think this guy's somebody who's not putting the work in. I can only imagine it's coding for 5 years and saying that you've been coding for 5 years, but how much have you actually been putting in the time and the effort and the energy? Are you coding every day? Are you building new things? Are you just watching videos? Are you building your own projects? And I feel like if you're in a situation where you're getting fired and you're getting laid off from your programming jobs, you need to reevaluate what your level of effort is and what your level of energy is, and try and find out what I would do. So let's say I got laid off from a software job, said I wasn't meeting their expectations. What I would do is I would inquire as to why. Now it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation because you're essentially saying you got fired. It's never a good conversation. Now you need to find out why. Why did you decide that you no longer want to work with me? Why is it that you're ending this relationship essentially? And you need to fix those holes in your games, because not meeting your expectations is a lot of things. Is it your communication skills? Are you too aggressive? Are you too passive? Is it the fact that you actually just don't know what you're doing and you need to? And it sounds like if he's been doing C and C++ for 5 years and you don't know those languages, it's very concerning. And if you can't hold a junior level role, I don't know what you're spending your time on as a developer to get better. And I can tell you right now that him spending his time in a master's program is not going to make him even remotely better in C or C++ or C# or anything else. Unfortunately, a lot of people, that's kind of what they do. When in reality, what's probably going to end up happening for this gentleman is that he'll have to, if he doesn't put in the time, the effort, and the energy, he'll have to actually go into a slightly different direction, maybe into quality assurance that is a little less technical, or maybe into project management or business analyst or something along that road. It doesn't sound like that's what he wants to do, yet I'd be very I just find it hard to believe that you've been coding for 5 years and you're getting fired from roles. So anyhow, that's my 2 thoughts on it. I apologize if I haven't been doing as many live streams as usual, and I haven't been posted as many videos, but my computer was broken, so I ordered a new one. And I don't know if you can see, this is my old one on the ground over here. You guys see it over there? I had to take the graphics card out of it, but anyhow, I got a new computer. Let's see if you guys can see that. Look at that. Look at that. You see, I see that right there. That's a GTX 1080. Oops, a GTX 1080 Ti. We got 3 fans. We got liquid cooling on the CPU, which is a 16-core AMD Threadripper. Got the SSD in there, 32 gigs of RAM, and gonna upgrade it to 64, but I didn't need it in the short term. But for those of you who've been wondering where the videos have been at, that's part of the reason. So cost me a pretty penny, but it's something I use every day between YouTube and work and studying and all that sort of stuff. If I don't use it for gaming, it's a waste of money. I mean, I do game on occasion, not too often. I use a lot of video editing tools, and I can use it for pretty much anything. So you got the glass on the side there, glass on the front. I got a couple of remotes for the coloring on it, all that sort of stuff. Anyhow, hey Mark. So Mark asked earlier when I was going to be live streaming. It's right now, man. I'm here. So let's see. Let's get some questions, guys. That's what this is all about. But back to the point of this, the start of this conversation. If you are getting fired from your developer jobs, you need to evaluate if you're putting in the time, effort, and energy. And if you are, you can be a very good developer, but you have to put the time, effort, and energy into it. And a lot of people just don't want to, right? That's just the truth of the matter. So I don't know what else to say about it than that. All right. Looking beautiful, sir. Thank you. Hey, is it the facial hair? Is it the braces? Kumar, how's it going? Electron course, please. Hey, me and you both, man. I need to learn Electron. I haven't touched it yet. What do you do when you're not able to code fast enough? I think what you're not necessarily referring to typing speed. I think what you're really referring to is being able to deliver products. And it's something that you need to find a more relaxed work environment, to be honest, less timeline driven. And honestly, at least the places, so a good workplace is flexible with timelines. A bad workplace has unrealistic timelines. And so if you're in a situation where people are setting unrealistic timelines, you might want to just remove yourself from that situation. And it sounds a little harsh, and like, I'm not necessarily telling you to quit your job, but if that's the result of where, like, there's a point when you're a developer where things aren't necessarily complex a lot of times, so much as just time consuming in the fact that you're building some CRUD tool or whatever it may be, and you can envision exactly how you're going to do it. You haven't written a line of code, but you know that it's going to take several days, several weeks, just based off the scope of the project. And people want it done by then. People who typically aren't technical, and you have to push back on that. You have to give realistic deadlines. You have to explain to them why in a very simplified, non-technical manner. So that might be one thing I would do. Now, if your ability is just that you are really struggling with trying to build and implement projects, you just need to code more. You need to code. You need to go home. You need to build your own projects. You need to work on your own projects. You need to solve algorithms. You just need to go until you can do it, quote unquote, fast enough. What language do you love? I'm really big in JavaScript, TypeScript for the most part. If you want to count TypeScript as a language, just JavaScript mainly. Still waiting on Dolan, the Wix development. Hey, it's coming, dude. I promise. Don't worry. Dolan is going to be dropping that hot fire. All right. Is data structure important to learn for a front-end developer job? Yes and no. You have to understand how to define good data structures as a front-end developer, because you want to be able to give feedback to the back-end developers who typically are designing the JSONs that you'll be getting and consuming on the front end. And part of it is you want to be able to contribute, right? Oftentimes you'll be building the front end even though I don't like doing it before the back end is done. And you have to be able to communicate, well, this is why I think the data structure should be this way, and they'll say this is why I think it should be this way. You need to be able to talk about that. So I think it's very important. You said GPU for cryptocurrency. Hey, maybe. Hi Dylan. What type of vanilla JS project is best to build for a portfolio? So, I would worry less. I'd worry less about what type of, like, framework or JavaScript, vanilla JS, and just what type of project. In general, the best projects that are going to get you noticed by other people, other companies, whatever it is, are unique ones. Stuff that there's not a tutorial for, stuff that is a long-term project and you can show that, oh, well, this is a project that has been, continuing to develop, stuff that's unique to you, right? And the example I always give to me, and this is less hard coding, if you will, more of a soft coding skill, is my YouTube channel. That is what has always been unique for me, to showcase, okay, this is what I'm passionate about. And you could do something very similar. Let's say that you are very interested in cryptocurrency. So you can go and consume some APIs that deliver cryptocurrency information. And then you can just build charts, build custom tools. And then later on, as you get better, you can add authentication so people can go and define their own charts, so on and so forth. How many courses have I finished? One. So one course I've finished on Udemy. Unless you're talking about school, of which I've since graduated from one course. That's a weird way of saying that. I've since finished one course. I started school on the 1st. I finished my first course last weekend. And then this coming weekend, a week from now, I plan on taking my second final. My current goal is to finish a single course every 2 weeks. And so far, I've set up the easier courses for me, and it's been very easy to continue with that. Some of the courses I may have to expand for 3 weeks for the material I'm less familiar with. But yeah, so that's in terms of courses. In terms of like Udemy courses, I finished one. In terms of college courses, since I went back on the 1st, I have finished one. Everything's going very well in that aspect. But then again, my first course was web dev, and my second course is web dev, and which is kind of funny. So to elaborate on that just for a bit, something that is ironic is I'm going back to school to just beef up my resume at the end of the day, and I have a chip on my shoulder. But I was actually hoping that I would learn something. Now, I didn't believe I would, but what I've learned so far is a little bit more of a history of the internet, because the material in web dev 5 years ago is not web dev today, because almost a renaissance or so in the last decade, if you will, of build tools, of superset languages, of frameworks, libraries, the whole deal, right? So there's all this craziness going on, and you have courses on web dev talking about like HTML4, HTML3, about VB script that Microsoft uses, and you have to answer questions about this. So it's kind of funny at the same time, and it's kind of sad. But hey, it is what it is. Thoughts on becoming an AWS solutions architect / developer? AWS, there's some AWS certs that, like, if you get the certification, on average, you make like $120,000. But in terms of like working with in a DevOps role, which is what you would probably be doing as a AWS guy, I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's great. How much did my new PC cost? About $2,800. So quite a bit. Yeah. Is there ever a point where you go into work in web dev and you have nothing to do? Nothing to do is all relative, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There was a point about 3-4 weeks ago where I had asked my project manager for more work, because I didn't believe that the work that I had was going to be sufficient. Now, in that case, the reason for that is I like to be overwhelmed by work. I want to have so many tickets that I can't possibly get them done. And the reason for that is because I have found that there is always, when you're only doing front end and other people are doing back end and you're only doing part of a project, you oftentimes get blocked as you dive deeper into a project. So that ticket stalls for 2-3 days. This ticket stalls for 2-3 days. And so that allows me to always have something to work on. So I've had to, in the past, in about a month or two, talk with my manager, my project manager, and say, look, I need more work. I don't have enough work. I'm sitting here watching Angular videos, trying to get better at that because I'm waiting because things are in flux. And what that has led to is more tickets, which is great. Some people would find that very overwhelming. I do not. I don't care if I deliver one ticket a week, one ticket a month. The thing I do is I am constantly working, and whatever gets done, gets done. And things that actually have hard deadlines, I will focus on and deliver that. Anyhow, so one of the things with me is I want to always be busy. I don't want to be there sitting twiddling my thumbs ever. If I am, I'm very unhappy. And so I've talked with previous people in the past. One of the things that they're going to be doing for me, anyhow, at my current role, is I'm moving from front end to full stack, and so I'll be developing in C# and .NET as well as Angular in the front end, and probably still focus on the front end, but I am now moving to full stack. I am finishing up some pure JavaScript application, some pure front end projects, and then probably starting late next week, I will start diving into the C#. iPone Pancake says, hey, Dylan, finally got my first gig from an oil field company here. Your channel definitely helped me out grow as a developer. Just want to say thanks and keep up the good work. Thank you, man. And congratulations on the new role. How hard is it to get freelance jobs as a full stack web developer from Africa? I honestly couldn't tell you. I think you're going to have to get freelance roles from anywhere. You're going to probably have to be able to communicate that you're a good developer very clearly. That could be with a very clear introduction letter, a very clear portfolio, a great resume in terms of like if you're working on Upwork or something like that, having some great reviews there as well. From Albania, shout out to our boys from Albania and our boy Francisco Caballero. Project ideas to go from beginner to intermediate in JavaScript. The thing is just take an existing project and add additional features. And when you feel like you finish that, try to add something new. Like the example I always give is authentication. Authentication is something that is definitely an intermediate point, or if you want to jump into the back end and build some basic endpoints, it all really just depends. But the goal should always be to keep moving forward. And as long as you have that mentality, you're good to go. Excuse me, sorry guys, that I'm something. I don't know what I ate like 3 breakfast sandwiches and it's killing my stomach and my throat right now. How to start as a fresher? How to start as a new developer to show the interviewer that we know that we have knowledge about the programming language? Well, a couple things. You have a GitHub that has projects to show that you actually code. You have a LinkedIn that's filled out to show your coding expertise, whether that be your blogs that you've commented on, the projects that you've built, the people that you've collaborated with at hackathons. Maybe you volunteer at code.org, things like that. That's all a great way to show that you're actively learning. What back-end framework do I use? In personal projects, I usually use Node and MongoDB and Express. I'm in school, bro. I suck at math, especially when it comes to proofs, but I'm pretty good when it comes to programming classes. Do you think it's important to be able to do proofs? No, absolutely not. If you're interested in data analytics, it may be relevant because it is so math heavy. If you're looking to do full stack development, front end, back end, and it varies, but it honestly, no. It's 9 times out of 10, you don't need to be pulling out the God, what was that awful course I took back in college? The algebra, not dynamic algebra. It'll come to me later, but yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Should I invest in a virtual private server to run my web apps for my portfolio page, or just link to my GitHub? Why don't you just use like Heroku? Heroku's free if you need a backend for your application. What is GitHub, sir? GitHub.com. Check it out. After learning some basic vanilla JS, is the next step learning a JavaScript framework? I would say build some projects in vanilla JS and then jump into Angular or jump into React. But definitely make sure you're comfortable with the basics, with the language itself. Not necessarily DOM manipulation, because it's very rare nowadays that you're going to be building anything in vanilla JS in terms of the DOM manipulation. But I would definitely say you need to be familiar with the higher order functions, the array functions, the string functions, the Boolean functions or methods, whatever you want to call them. That's what you definitely need to be comfortable with. Do I code daily for freelancing? No. I have freelanced in the past for old companies I've worked with and things like that, but I don't do any currently. I've been thinking about taking a computer science course with Open University distance learning. Do you think it's a good idea? I don't know. I'd have to investigate the program. Now I'm doing it. I'm doing online college, and it's something that you're going to need to have a lot of self-control. It's something that you're going to need to work out every day, and it is something that it's not for everybody. I could definitely see a lot of people not succeeding. So keep that in mind when you do it, that it is a active effort at all times. Are you watching UFC 220 tonight? I will indeed. And for the main event, I'm picking Francis Ngannou. Now, it is a main event fight. The way that I see him losing this, if he does lose, is that Stipe just sort of wears him down into the third, fourth, and fifth round, and he tires out. And that is kind of how Stipe wins. But if Francis Ngannou gets his hands on him, here's the thing. I think Stipe could win this fight, but I think it's not going to happen because I think he's going to try and stand, because Stipe seems like he has a chip on his shoulder about the whole thing. Is it a good idea to have a complete grasp of ES6 before using React or Angular? ES6 is all relative, right? So ES6 introduced classes, but if you're developing Angular, you'll be doing classes with TypeScript. What you really just want to understand in terms of ES6 are a few things. You want to understand the spread operator. You want to understand arrow functions. You want to understand let and const. You want to understand what's the other one? I don't know. There's a couple things. I have a course that I'm building right now that has everything in ES6 I think is important. Discrete mathematics. Yes, that was the course I was talking about. It was awful. I'm comfortable with C and C++ whenever I'm working on my own, but I become clueless at some point when I'm working on a project nearing deadlines with the team. What is wrong with me? I don't know, man. Working with a team is one of the best ways to become a better developer, in my opinion. I personally love it in terms of working. I personally love my personal projects to be solo projects. I don't want to work with anybody on that, but that's different. Why is it so hard to get an internship? I don't really think it is. I think you just need to change how you're looking and how applying. You need to apply a lot. You need to be prepared in terms of having everything you need, such as an impressive portfolio, a LinkedIn, a GitHub, a nice resume, cover letter, letters of recommendation. You just need all that. I mean, once you have all that, it becomes much easier. Now, if you're applying without any of that or missing part of it, you're essentially going to the bottom of the list. You would for me if I was interviewing, anyhow. If you want to do full stack, why are you skipping Node.js? I'm not skipping Node.js. I use Node and Express when I do full stack and personal projects. Forrest Tang says, "Hey Dylan, remember that video you did about the Google Udacity scholarships? He's talking about a live stream where I started off talking about Google is giving away like 50,000 scholarships to Udacity. Anyhow, so I filled out the app because of your video and I got in. Don't know if I'll get the second part, but almost done with the first part. Thanks, man. You're welcome, man. Have I learned anything interesting in college so far? I've just learned a little bit of the history of the web, some stuff about some outdated knowledge that is interesting, but no, not really. Yeah, UFC 220 is tonight. Is Bootstrap still necessary with CSS Grid? CSS Grid and Bootstrap are two separate things. Heroku, Heroku. Dennis, welcome. Is jQuery going to die soon? jQuery is an interesting thing because it's not going to die, but it's still on, much like PHP, which is a cancer to the web. It is still alive and flourishing in the sense that it is on a large percentage of websites. But what you'll notice with both those things is they're slowly dwindling. We're slowly fighting the good fight, and the PHPs of the world and the jQueries of the world are going to die and burn. So we got it. We got to cut out the cancer from the internet, guys. So jQuery is something that is no longer relevant, is how I would put it. If you're a entry level developer, what you need to be learning to get you the money, to get you the good jobs, is React, is Angular. That's what you need to be working with. Now, will it go away? No, it will not go away because a ton of websites already use jQuery. And in all honesty, a lot of people use jQuery when they want to do DOM manipulation, and go from there. What is your average day at work like, and how long are the days? Well, I did a video recently talking about my day-to-day operations of the front-end dev. I encourage you to check that out. But basically, every day I go in, I typically show up about an hour to an hour and a half early. And the reason for that is I study for class. I study some Angular videos, so I do a little bit of pre-prep, and then I start my day and start by answering emails. I do a couple pull requests, some code reviews. I have some stand-up meetings. I code. So I'd say about 2/3 of my day I code on average. For content creation and online presence, do you think being more casual kills some job opportunities? And what are you talking about, me particularly, or what are you talking about? Kelvin. Hello, I'm new to the program. I started a course on Codecademy, but I don't see any usefulness in any of it. Well, I mean, considering all major companies that are exploding have a software aspect to it, I guess when you're just starting, it may be hard to see it, but what you really should be worried about is not whether it's useful at this point. You should just be trying to learn the syntax, I would say. Any websites or books to learn C++? I don't know, man. I haven't ever gotten it. What do you have against PHP? What's the problem? PHP. You know what? I'm gonna do a video about why I hate PHP and give you an educated response. How about that? Because this is something that people that got really upset about me just taking a dump on PHP. But I will take a dump on PHP and I will cite my sources, and we'll go from there. What I think about the mean stack, I think it is a great entry level stack to help you get started. Okay, Dylan, where do you see yourself after you graduate and have a university degree on your resume? I don't know. My life is very interesting in the fact because I love where I work, but I also am aggressive with my salary. So, if I I can only imagine if my boss was watching this. But I mean, I'm pretty open and honest about what I want out of my career. So if I graduate before my 1-year review, which is I think is possible, I will be very aggressive with my salary. If I don't, I'll be semi-aggressive with my salary and go from there. That's how I see it. Now, my sort of short-term goals is to work on YouTube, to develop courses, to write a book. All those sorts of things are going to kind of take a wayside till I finish my university degree. How can I start network security, cyber hacking, and all those? That's a very broad question. Are cover letters important at all? It's a very time-consuming process. For instance, the time can be spent working on side projects, practicing five-word energy. So the way that you write cover letters, you do not write a unique cover letter for every employer. What you have is about 5 or 6 different cover letters. And in those cover letters, there's sort of a main theme to each one of them. And all you really do is swap out different names, different addresses, and then you're done. So yes, you have to take an afternoon to write 3, 4, 5 cover letters, whatever you think is different. And what you might focus on, one is, you start talking about specifically your web dev skills and go into more emphasis about JavaScript and TypeScript for those types of roles. And other roles, maybe talk a little bit more about how you go to meetups and whatever you think is relevant. So that's how I write cover letters. So I sort of have 3 or 4, and then I just swap out names and dates and things like that and addresses. Besides coding, what else do you learn in your jobs? I'm a software developer. What else do you want? I mean, you do learn a little bit of business aspects and things like that, marketing. But every job's gonna be different. Can I make an in-depth video on your resume, GitHub, and portfolio? I've had several. I've kind of gone over it briefly. I don't know if I ever did. I was looking into starting a YouTube channel. I prefer channels like yours because your casual tone is more real, but I'm more self-taught, so I thought it might hurt. I wonder if I should take this casual tone as a offense. Like, I always wonder when people say that I'm like casual. Like what? Like how am I how would I talk to be more professional? Would I sit up straight? Would I not have a StarCraft shirt on? Uh, but anyhow, so starting a YouTube channel when you're just starting out, I started my YouTube channel 2 years, 8 months ago, and I was still a computer science student in school, and I was just doing like tutorials on Codecademy. That's how I started my channel, and I've been working at it ever since. And the reason I bring that up is I think it's always a great time to start a YouTube channel because it's a marathon, and you want to start the marathon as soon as possible, and not a sprint. Because by the time that you want to start a channel, you're gonna already want to have the views, you're gonna already want to have the subscribers, want to have the people watching. Like I'm looking right now, we have 80 people watching. That is a fantastic number for me. And I remember when there was 0 people watching the live stream, or it would go from 0 and then go 1, 2, 3, right? And then 3 people would leave, you go back to 0, right? And so it's one of those things where it is a great thing to start on, and you start earlier, you learn, you progress as a developer, you progress as somebody, as a content creator. I don't think it hurt you. I think if anything, my YouTube channel has done more for my career than anything else. And it has essentially made me a unique candidate, which I think all developers should strive for when you're getting started. Are the developer industries introvert friendly? I think so. I mean, a lot of developers are awkward guys. In terms of, I mean, I'm awkward in my own way. Don't get me wrong, but I'm probably more of the. I'm a bit of an introvert, and it's kind of crazy, right? Because like here I am throwing out hundreds of videos of myself on the internet, but like if you met me, I'll be friendly, but I'd probably be a little bit of an introvert depending on the situation. But yeah, I would say by and large, the developer community is introvert friendly. Now, I will say from a business perspective that if you are an introvert and you're not very good with communication, you're not going to, just statistically speaking, your career is not going to progress as well. So it may be something that you want to overcome. Is it worth me trying to get a computer science degree? I have a portfolio and I taught myself some computer science principles, but my academic achievement is low. It's all relative, man. You don't have to have a degree by any means. I do very well. I'm a working developer. I'm going back to school for a couple of reasons, but I would do just fine if I didn't have one. So it's all relative. What is a cover letter? Cover letter is sort of an introduction statement about who you are as an individual and why you want to work with said company that you're applying to. Do self-initiated projects work in a portfolio site? I'm not sure what a self-initiated project is. James, first off, my man James, take a second and go download Visual Studio Code. It's the best text editor out right now. You need to ditch Atom, man. This ain't 2016 anymore, boys. You need to ditch the Atom text editor and go get yourself Visual Studio Code. All right. What would be semi-aggressive after 1 year? A 15% raise. That would be aggressive. That would be aggressive. A semi-aggressive would be a 10%, and a okay, we're meet at a 5%. I would say that would be something I would. Yeah. So that would be how I would define semi-aggressive and aggressive. In 2018, for a web designer, Sketch or Photoshop / Illustrator. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I don't do web design. How are the cats? They're great. We actually Milo has had some teeth infected. He has autoimmune disease. We found out, so he has to get like a shot every 5 months to essentially make it so that he doesn't scratch at himself and nip at him. So we're taking him next week. He has to get 2 teeth pulled out though, unfortunately, because of it. Casual is good. It's your style of how you pitch the info, which is style of how some of us want to be taught. You're like a friend who's talking to us through the info. We're all boys, right? Even the girls, you're our boys too. All right. So we gotta keep it 100, as Ray J would say. Can you listen to music at work? Yeah. So I have headphones. Everyone for the most part has headphones in there. Imagine having 80 people in a room. That's really puts it in perspective. It's kind of a trip, right? Imagine if I'm just up here shooting the shit with 80 of you over there in your underwear, right? Is that what they tell everyone to just think of them in their underwear, which is a really strange thing to say, and even stranger that it caught on. What are some tips on how to get an entry-level junior web developer position for someone seeking the first job as a developer? First off, make sure you have the skills that people are looking to hire entry-level developers. Secondly, make sure you have practice. You need to be prepared at all times, and you need to actively apply. A lot of times people think, oh, I'll just apply to 2 to 3 jobs a day. No, you need to be applying to 50 to 100 jobs a day. And you may think I'm exaggerating. I am not. Also, I think you should be willing to relocate. If you can relocate, you're going to compete against less people, and you're going to be able to open yourself up more opportunities. And you're saying, oh, Dylan, but I want to stay in my home. I have family. Okay, that's cool. Go back after 3 years of experience. Go back after 5 years of experience. Go back after 2 years of experience, 1 year, whatever it is. But your main goal should be to get a job. How to learn Node.js? Well, install Node, decide what you want to build using Node and maybe Express, and go on from there. Lots of love from India. Hey, India is the second most watched country on this channel. We got nothing but love for our Indian brothers out there. So higher math, we actually answered your question at the beginning of this video. Couldn't meet the expectations of my boss's 2 years, 2 companies. Do you think I should continue to pursue coding? My thing is, man, that I don't think you're putting the effort or energy. I think that if you were, you wouldn't have any issue. But I honestly can't base that off anything else, anything really. Have I proposed yet? Am I inviting you to the wedding? I feel like you're a secret, like you're April's secret account. You're trying to plant seeds. Do we get to use our preferred tools for working? It all depends on the organization, but for the most part, yes. I subscribed to your channel when you're around 1K subscribers. In one of your live streams, you said that you're going to be marrying once you have 100,000 subscribers and have a 100K salary job. What is all this marriage talk, man? Can't a man just be dating the woman of his dreams for 7 years and not have to, or 7 or 8? It's hard to keep track. 8 years and not have to put a ring on it. Everything's going great. Everything's doing good. I got no problems. Do African developers need to be paid hourly with the United States rates? I mean, honestly, it's all relative. You get paid what you can. I don't know. How often should you ask for a raise? My thing is you should get a raise as a developer every year. Every single year. And if you don't, you need to there's a company around the corner who will give you a fat one if you go and leave. So am I very close to reach 100K subscribers, 100K salary? I will probably reach 100K salary in 2 years, I think, maybe 3. And I will reach 100K subs. Let's see. Currently, I'm growing by like 2,200 subs a month. So what's that, a year, 25? About 2 to 3 years, I'll reach 100K if I don't join. So about the same time. How to get clients if you're in Africa? Probably just online. That'd be my guess. How long does it take to become a full stack developer? As long as it takes you. Yeah, VS Code is legit. What type of portfolio projects? This needs to be unique stuff. You don't want to be putting like weather apps and calculators and to-do applications. That's the stuff you build when you're learning to code, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're trying to impress an employer, you don't build those sorts of things. You need to build custom things, new stuff. 50 to 100 applications is a bit excessive, I think. Cover letters should be job specific at minimum, and resumes too, really. 50 to 100 applications is really spray and pray, just my 2 cents. Well, it is definitely spray and pray, 100%, but that's really what you have to do in reality. Now, your resume should be job specific, but typically you're going to be applying for junior level roles. And if you're okay going to a front end role, you have a front end resume. Yeah, you're going to a back end role, you have a back end resume. And if you're going to a full stack role, you have a full stack resume. And honestly, as a junior developer, they're all going to look alike. Now, your cover letter should be, yes, you swap in different things, and maybe you have 2 paragraphs that are the same for every cover letter, and then you write that 1 paragraph there. But you will be putting in, you will be more successful filling out 50 to 100 job apps than doing custom cover letters and custom resumes to a job. How complex will code usually be in real world apps? It kind of depends. I mean, it's all relative to what company you're working with and what projects you're building on. Are you gonna shave your mustache? No, it's a little darker in the center, and I got the light going on. I basically just been using a beard trimmer on my face for the last 2 weeks. April wants me to keep a little bit of facial hair. What's going on with Mr. Dolan, the Wix developer? The PC broke, and I'm working on it, guys. Don't worry. Dolan is coming. All right. Tabs or spaces? Tabs. I think we all know the answer to that. Follow-up question. I have the skills, but the problem I've been facing so far is I've been applying to a lot of positions I qualify, but I only ever hear back. Otherwise, it's just silence. So a lot of times people are intimidated to apply for positions that, let's say you have 0 years experience and it says 3 years minimum. Just apply to it. There's no harm. It takes 5-10 minutes. Apply to more roles than you think you can that you're qualified for. And eventually you never know. What they may want is a junior developer, but if you're competent and you have skills and you just get a phone interview, Another thing is apply daily to the jobs that go out that day. Sometimes people are wasting their time applying to roles that just don't are they're already filled. It's just a week old thing, and they've already have 10 candidates that they're talking with. So, is web development marketable everywhere else? In Kenya, it's not. People don't know the value of web development. I mean, it all depends on what country you're in. A lot of software and tech jobs in the United States. So, the chat is lit today. The chat is lit. I like that word lit. I don't know how that's how. Why isn't that caterpillar under your nose? What? Yo, guys, why are you hating on the stash? It doesn't look that bad. I have one more year left at CSULA. That's where I dropped out of college. In case any of you want to know, when I was back in school, before I went back, when I was in school and I dropped out, it was Cal State Los Angeles. I'm below average developer. I just went to school because it's free. I feel other people outright me when it comes to what jobs. What would you do? I would start side projects. I would start coding on the weekends. I'd turn this last year as a developer. I'd focus entirely on getting those skills up. That's what I would do. Have you ever been fired or know someone from a developer job why they were fired? Yes. Not yes, have I ever been fired, but I have known people who have been fired. Oftentimes it's because they can't do the job. Oftentimes it's because it's kind of funny. So the people who are the people who get fired are so worried about showing that they're bad at development that they end up get fired. And what I mean by that is when you need help as a developer, it is okay to ask other developers for said help. It is okay to reach out to the tech leads, to the senior developers, to the other junior developers to say, look, man, I am lost. I don't know this source code. I'm overwhelmed. Can you sit down? Can you pair program with me? 99% of the time they will. And what happens is a lot of times people are so worried because maybe they lied on their resume, and which a lot of people do. I'm not saying you should, and I'm actually saying that you shouldn't. But there are people who do that, and those are typically the ones who get fired. And they're so worried about exposing the fact that they lied on their resume, and that maybe when they put Angular or they put JavaScript on there, uh, they did that and they were like, well, I took a JavaScript course on Codecademy, so I know JavaScript. Yeah, that's not really. So if you get hired because of that, then yeah, you're gonna need some help and you're gonna be exposed. And so people are so worried about exposing themselves that they just let things dwindle, and never get it done, and then they get fired. That's usually what happens. What's the biggest reason to choose Visual Studio Code over Atom? Atom would crash with large file sets for me. That was my biggest thing. If I have a business management bachelor's, should I put on my junior resume even though it's not 100% relevant? You 100% should always put your college degrees on your resume. Don't care if it's literally in music theater, whatever it is, put it on the resume. Is it okay to start with Java instead of the usual path? I mean, Java is the usual path for some colleges, so it just kind of depends. Java is going to be a little bit of a harder language to learn than something like JavaScript as your first language, partly because there's a lot of very specific rules that go along with Java that you don't have in maybe a more dynamic language like JavaScript. Thoughts on static site generators? They are taking some of the web design jobs. I got Stash, but not as qualified as a code more like code janitor. Hey, I mean, you guys all love the Stash. Let's just be real. All right. Mustache and dental brace is not a good combo. These things are coming off, I think, in about 6 weeks. 6 weeks, boy. Getting 88. Yeah, we're getting famous. Let's see if we can hit that 100. Keep it 100. If you guys love trashy television, I don't know. I don't watch too much television, but I used to. Go watch For Love of Ray J season 1 and season 2. It's probably my favorite show of all time. Quick question. Last semester on IT specialization web dev. Any advice to get a job that pays around 40K with some benefits? 40K is pretty. I mean, it's all relative to what degree, not what degree, what region you live in, but 40K with benefits and a college degree is really probably pretty low in the United States. But my advice to you, as someone looking to get a decent salary, is to go outside the box and have a more impressive resume than everybody else by having projects, by having a portfolio site, active GitHub, by volunteering, maybe doing blog posts, doing tutorials, just essentially setting yourself apart from everyone else. I definitely recommend you take an internship and work at a corporation before you start freelancing or doing contract work. Do you need to know how to use Photoshop nowadays to get a job? No. How did you plan out moving to Florida when you knew no one, had no money, had no place to stay, the big risk you took? So, I've talked about this briefly in the past, but I'll summarize. Essentially, I knew that I was willing to move out of state, so I moved back home, and my mom said I could stay with her for 1 month without paying rent, and so my goal was to get a job within that 1 month, and I did. But I moved back home, so I didn't have a lease or anything, and then I started applying 50, 100 jobs a day. And then when I got a job in Florida, I accepted instantly. I gave my 2 weeks, and at that moment, I then booked a Airbnb for 10 days. Cheapest Airbnb I could find was like $13 or $14 a night. And I had by the time I left and I drove down there, I had about God, uh, maybe $700 to my name at that time. Like I didn't have much money at all. It's definitely under $1,000 by the time I got uh to Florida, and I stayed in the Airbnb. Oh, excuse me, no, I take it back. I had like $1,500. I gave a deposit. I basically what I did was I stayed 1 or 2 nights in the Airbnb, and from there I then rented a room that I found on Craigslist, and I just started grinding it out like you would. How do I know my programming knowledge is enough to get a job? Go get a job interview and see. No one's gonna, go and tap you on the back and say, "Hey, you're ready, man. You're good." A lot of you guys are probably ready. You just have to, work yourself up and you get in there and continue learning once you get a role. That's probably the most um, um, accurate way of determining it. How did you approach salaries when you first started applying for dev jobs? Did you just take what they gave you, or did you give them a specific range? When I forgot my very first web developer job as a junior dev, which was my last job, coincidentally, they asked me when I was being interviewed, what was I expecting to be paid for the position, and what I said was, I would like to be paid the average rate of a developer with my years of experience, based off the standard in Florida. What that came to was $62,000. And so I got paid 62,000, and then it went up by 5 grand after 3 months to 67. And that's how I negotiated my first salary, because that was something that I thought was fair. How much free time do you have per day? Not much right now. I wake up around 6 to 6:30. I I'm out the door by 6:30 or 7. I get to work around 7:30. From 7 between 7 and 8:30, I study for school. I study maybe a little bit on Udemy, watch some videos, and then I work till about 5:30. I drive home till 6. I study. I have dinner with April for about 30 minutes. I usually do about 30 minutes to an hour of YouTube stuff, and I do about an hour of studying, and then I go back to bed. That's usually my Monday through Friday. Have I watched DevShips channels? Not in a very long time. Hey, how you doing, Dylan? Good, man. Welcome. I was wondering when you got hired, are you allowed to use Ubuntu or going to have to use what they have at the company? It's all relevant. It's all relative, rather, to what you're trying to do. How many projects should one have before applying to internships? A lot of projects is good, but it could be as little as one project if an impressive project. But if I had to choose a number, I think 3, because that way you can showcase multiple skills, whether it's different frameworks or different technologies. Well, Eric, I mean, be willing to relocate, right? So when I booked the Airbnb, I drove 2,800 miles. It was awful. I drove for 3.5 or 4 days straight. I stayed at like the jankiest red roof inns, in which I'm like, God, I hope I don't get assaulted. And then I I got stopped at Texas by like eight border patrol, and they had guns drawn and everything. It was sketch. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you gotta take chances, guys. Um, General opinion of developers when it comes to competitive program. Hey, man, if you can do it. I mean, I've come in a last place enough in my life to know that I can't compete with people doing competitive program. I don't look, man. I can take L's and things, but like, why go and get an L that you know you're gonna get one? But no, I think I'd probably go to. I've gone to a couple hackathons. They're kind of fun. Um, but I mean, they're always interesting. Um, Making 67K per year. I mean, that's what I was making at my last job. Yeah. Will my portfolio specifically access to login? Will employers spend the extra minute it takes to log in, or will login page scare them off? So I would say that what I would say, Chase Davis, is I think the login page is awesome because it shows authentication, it shows additional things. I don't think it would scare them off. But if something that you're worried about, what you could do is create a temporary account or an account specifically for people looking to check your portfolio out. And in your cover letter, you can supply the account and the password and go from there. All right. I am gonna have to ban Explorer. Where's Explorer? Because I can't stand when people spam the chat, man. It's like, look, man, I don't know what you want. I'm a white guy in the United States. I have no idea how much what the market is in Sri Lanka. I have no idea. I've never been to Sri Lanka. I don't know the job market intimately in Sri Lanka. Um, so we're gonna put you on timeout. You need to go in the corner. All right. So so I mean, I appreciate that you want an answer, but I can't give you. I'm not just gonna give you an answer. I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. So you gotta go on timeout. Um, yeah. I mean, you can always March, April, May. You can always start applying and just if something happens, but it's always hard to get that first job. Once you got hired for your Angular job, do you know everything single thing about Angular? No. My last role, I got hired for an Angular JS role, and what happened there was I essentially built my current site for the channel, which is codingtutorials360.com, and that got me the job. And then I learned Angular a little bit more in detail. What's learned after HTML, CSS, JavaScript? Maybe some Git, and maybe some what do you call it? Git and a JavaScript framework. How much do you make and actually take in after taxes? My paychecks after I pay for my benefits and after I pay taxes, and in my actual pocket, I get about $2,100 every 2 weeks after taxes, after paychecks, after deductions, all that sort of stuff. What do you think about going after building a startup? What do you think about getting going? I'm not. You have to reformat that one, man. Thank you for answering all the questions. Hey, man, that's what this is about. What's up with the green background? It's what I use for the green screen. It's just a painted wall. So let me see here. Can I might be, you know what? No, I'm not gonna play with it. But yeah, so that's Jill. I'm sad you broke your promise about the JS course. Sorry, my computer broke. I wanted to put it out, but I'm gonna put it out. Don't worry, I'm expanding upon it. I am not a fan of soccer. What is the possibility to get a web developer job freelance in the US for people outside the US? I couldn't tell you. I don't think it's impossible though. I could put a cool background on the green screen wall, just not right now. This new computer doesn't have the software installed on it yet. How does knowing the syntax of a language translate to building an app? Well, you have to know how to build an app. You have to know a language to be able to build an application. Like, how are you going to build it if you don't know what your tools are and if you don't know what your materials are? If you say, I'm going to build a house, and I ask you with what, and you say, no, I don't know, I'm just going to build it. I say, well, are you going to use wood? Don't know. Are you going to use brick? Don't know. Are you gonna, is it going to have carpet? Are you going to use nails and hammers? Don't know what any of that is, but I'm going to build a house. Are you kind of seeing my point here? You have to know the syntax. You have to know the language to know how it's possible to build said house. Did I lose any money on Bitcoin stuff? No, I'm up about 300% on that stuff, give or take a little here or there. Can you make Angular and React courses? I have a basic introduction Angular portfolio project in the description if you're interested in my first Angular course. Have I visited Africa or Kenya? I have not. I'd like to one day. Fortunately, I need to go for there. Hey, I got my front-end cert at Free Code Camp. Applied at over 60 places. I even coded a resume to try to stand out. Still no luck. Any tips on landing that first job? 60 is not enough. You need to be doing like 50 a day. What's your perspective and opinion on programming channels for 2018 or in general? I think it's a great space to be in. I think a lot of people, I mean, in terms of job channels, programming is a niche within that. And I think it's something that's going to continue to grow. And I think it's excellent for your resume. I mean, if you talk about the time and money so if you talk about the amount of time I put into YouTube, right now I'm making about $500 a month in ad revenue, and I make about that in sponsored videos and sponsorships and things like that. But in terms of time, it's really not worth what you get out of it per money if you were to add, the months that I was making $3 a month. But where you get your value is in becoming a better developer, as well as becoming an interesting candidate and having a portfolio project that very few people can duplicate. And that is where I've got my value with my programming channel. Can I evaluate on learning front-end development using templates? Yeah. So a lot of times when you're learning to code, you sometimes don't even know how to do certain things. Like you don't know what to Google, you don't know how to go about it. So let's say you have this awesome website that you have a template for instance, and you have all the source code. And what you can do is you can then start customizing said template to fit your needs. And what will happen is you're going to be introduced to a lot of different things in the process. And you can also go about the route of, hey, I want to code out this navigation and I want to see if I can build something that works exactly like it. And I'm looking at it and I'm building it, and but you have the code so you can dive into it to kind of get some hints and go about it. So that's kind of how I used to do it. And I found it very helpful. It's exactly what I did with my website, codingtutorials360.com as well. Do I have any colleagues transferred from accounting/finance background to coding? At 2 workplaces ago, I had a couple of economics majors that went into data analytics. Would I learn Visual Basic for a 200K job? No, I think I'll get to 200K on my own in about 5, 6, 7 years. I don't. I mean, if it's 200K today, they're like, hey, we want to hire you, give you 200K, learn Visual Basic, probably, but that's not really a realistic situation. If money wasn't a problem for you anymore, what would you plan on doing the rest of your life? That's a very interesting thing. I probably would definitely do YouTube. Just maybe not necessarily. I mean, I really do enjoy YouTube. I do enjoy the teaching aspect, the learning aspect, but I also enjoy the coding aspect. So I probably would just be doing my own projects. That's really what I would do. I was probably starting businesses. And it's kind of crazy. You start a business to make money a lot of times, but I'd be starting businesses not only to make money, even though I had money, but to just be successful, I guess. All right, guys. So we've been going about an hour. I appreciate all of you tuning in. I, of course, will have a new video out on Monday. Every Monday, I release a video. This Monday is about freelancing. So if you're interested on some tips for freelancing, I know quite a few of you asked some questions about it. That is what Monday's video will be about. I encourage you to check it out. And I also encourage you to just keep on grinding it out. Every Saturday, I will do these live streams so that we can answer your questions and help you out in the best way can. I know that it's frustrating at times, and it's not everything is a clear cut path. And a lot of times when you're learning software, there's so much information, it can be overwhelming. So I will always do my best to help you out in the grind, in the journey, to the best of my ability. I appreciate all of you tuning in. And if I could leave you with one thing to think about, I always try to end on some sort of final thought in honor of Jerry Springer, is that when it comes to hard work, oftentimes you're putting hard work in daily and you're getting no payoff until you do. What I mean by that is, if we're all grinding away at something in our life and we're putting in the time, we're putting the effort, the tears, and it's stressful, it sucks, and we haven't got the payoff, but it eventually comes and it all becomes worth it. And what you have to make sure to do is just keep on staying on the straight and narrow, keep on putting in the work, keep on making sure that tomorrow you're one step closer. And if you do, you'll get to your destination, whether that is to build your project, whether it is to get a junior level role, whether it is to transfer careers and become a better developer. So I want you to keep that in mind, is that as long as you're grinding it out and you're moving forward, you'll eventually get there. But if you give up, doesn't matter if maybe tomorrow was the day that you got your lucky break or not, it won't come because you stopped working towards it. So just keep working hard, guys, and grinding it out. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye, guys.